The July 18th, 2024 Plan Commission meeting. Could I get a roll call, please?
Yes, Brink.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Aletsky. Here. Kays.
Here.
Dargis Johnson.
Here.
And Colhane, Dolly, and Spire are absent. We have a quorum, and any of these items for an affirmative recommendation to the city council will be four, sorry.
It's a simple majority.
Yeah, of the main, yeah, okay, of the board members present. Every time, I swear. Yes. Yep. 3.
Sounds
I,
good.
I was prepared for the Board of Adjustment. I did not think about it for Plan Commission, and it's what we get.
And I was thinking 4 as well, so I'm glad we got that clarified. So, all right, item 3 is invitation for public comment participant submittal. Anything not on the agenda, but if something that someone wants to talk about, there will be time at the end. Just let Brandy know. And then item 4 is approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion in a second?
Ford moves. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is the approval of the minutes of the July 2nd meeting. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, Brandy, could we do 6A and 6B kind of together and do 2 actions? I see they're both Harmony Hill. Is that?
Sure.
All right, well, we'll do them together. I'll do one public hearing. It's commission consideration for a concept plan revision and rezoning. So with that, Brandy, I will let you take over and explain what we're doing.
All right, thanks, Jeff. So the first item here for 6A, it is the concept plan of the Harmony Hill Addition update. So if you see here on these side-by-sides, in 2022, we approved the most recent concept plan, which is over here on the right. And then now they've made some changes just to, as they've been going forward and refining things. So then now this is what is proposed for the updates to the concept plan. So you can see the main changes here is that they're including some R2 lots on the south side of the PUD, which is an effective way of, recovering for a street cost to have lots on both sides and just buffer all around. And then they also have foregone the R1 zoning on the west here, and then have left that open for R3 multifamily residential, which is great. Honestly, that falls better in line with our housing study needs for what we need for single family lots versus multifamily units by 2030. So otherwise, the street network, you can see a lot of that is the same. In the future, they'll come forward for the rural residential type of PUD. Currently, we don't have that in our zoning ordinance. Would like to add that by this phase, but if worst case scenario, they can go for a PUD and basically just model it that way. And then for the PUD, then that already exists at Harmony Hill, when they first, let's pull that. So they did not extend the PUD all the way down to the south boundary of the property that has been annexed and zoned. So that has existed just as A1 agricultural, and then everything else has been zoned because at this time, or at the time when they first rezoned it to PUD, they did not have the southern area figured out for what that was going to look like yet. So when I go now down to the PUD information, basically, this is a rezone from A1 to PUD, but it's also the extension of the existing PUD and adding phases 2 and 3 now to that PUD plan. So this document, and we have all of our PUD plans and narratives online. So then this document will expand and it'll include what was approved the first time when it was rezoned. And then now it'll include, so that's basically phase 1. And then this second rezone will now be phases 2 and 3. But together, it's one PUD zoning. It's basically an extension. Not a lot has changed for what they proposed the first time. It's just they actually were able to refine what they were doing. Before, on the first one, they left it open with just kind of placeholders. So they had the senior living twin homes and then the Veterans Village, which is still part of the plan, as you can see, but then now they have actually laid that out. So this would be some of the senior living. And, so then you can have your homeowners association, whatnot, where you want to live independently, but then it's all in their vision of the transitional living. And then the Veterans Village area over here and daycare and whatnot. So with that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Thank you. So they're changing some of the R1 to R3. There hasn't been any R1 platted or zoned out there yet, correct?
Correct.
And I think that's important to note because it's, if someone had already bought an R1 lot and thinking they were gonna have R1 neighbors and all of a sudden we're switching, that's not kosher. But since that hasn't happened yet, I think now is the right time to make those changes as their plans become more clear and crystallized, so.
Mr. Chair. Okay, I see that the R3, where it's going to be multifamily, are there going to be like interior roads then inside of there instead of these roads that were for R1?
That will be, that would be a minor change because it wouldn't be a public street system. So it just kind of all depends on who develops it and what they want to do for it.
What size they do. I mean, it could be one 12-plex or it could be a complex of buildings.
Yep. And that's definitely something that, if there are multiple buildings on one lot, we like to see that they all have access to a private street because you never know how ownership changes over time. So one person might construct 5 apartment buildings, and then in the future they want to sell them off. So we make sure that they have separate utility services, and then or sanitary and water, and then also that they would have access by a private street that would be privately maintained.
Mr. Chair? Just a couple oddities on here, Brandy. On page 7, right in the center, what's that little armpit area?
Page 7.
Right there.
That is a different property owner. So an existing property owner has a farm place there. The sisters don't own it.
And has that person made any comments about any of these changes, or it's just seems to be going along smoothly?
Not that I've heard, unless they're here. Rick?
All right. And then on page 9, what's this rectangle of state parcel?
That is honestly for utilities for the High Line. I don't.
Part
Did
of
you just
it
say High Line?
also, part of it, the state, when they demolished some of the buildings that were on there, they had to have a holding place for some of that debris. And so the state had to take a piece of that out. I remember having to issue a building permit or a permit for the county about a long time ago for doing something with that.
Yep, that's correct. That's where they buried the old school.
You mean the old high school
Right, yep,
is buried right there where it says state parcel?
correct, yep.
Because the state owns that land.
And it's there for perpetuity?
I think it was part of an asbestos, a way to seal that. So, that'll never be a buildable lot.
So asbestos is buried there?
Correct, yeah.
Is that
Safely.
part of the asbestos state-approved way of dealing with asbestos?
I guess I'm not sure. I wasn't a part of that, but if the state took ownership, I'm sure it was permitted correctly, so.
I mean, that's how they have to get rid of it, I believe, in the landfill today, that for asbestos, they just need to know that it's coming so that they can do whatever process if they need, and I'm no asbestos expert.
So it doesn't
But it
crumble
has
and
to
get
be-
dusty.
Yeah,
It has to be containerized properly.
It has to
It can't
mitigate.
just be buried as a bunch of bricks or,
You're not throwing asphalt shingles and things like that out there. I mean, you're basically, it has to be contained, it has to maintain dust, you have to secure it so that it can't get into the air,
are there
particulate
any
matter.
documents that, anywhere that talk about how that occurred and how it was done?
I'm sure there is.
I issued the permit for it, I can tell you that, and it's all done per state standards.
so Todd's office, first district will be,
Oh, no, the county commission, Cottington County.
oh, yes.
I'm-
But this
I'm
isn't
pretty
on- this is-
serious about this. I'm not laughing.
I'm trying, what all I'm trying to say
It's
is
quite a significant
that
situation.
there's a lot of places,
I'm
I'm
talking,
sorry.
Todd, I'm talking. Thank you. It's a pretty serious situation when you're putting in a bunch of houses. And it's pretty important that I would guess, we have some documentation that that asbestos was properly handled before we put in a bunch of houses with kids and, I mean, who knows what is there?
And we can definitely look into that, but then remember too, this is state property, not the sister's property. So,
It's property owned by the state of South Dakota where our regulations do not apply.
yep.
Well,
And at the time, it should not have been regulated if it wasn't done to regulations, like this,
so where would a person go to find out about that?
South Dakota Department of Environment and Agricultural and Natural Resources.
yep,
Right.
SDDANR.
Really nice people. I had to talk to them about a septic.
I
and
used to
they
work
were
with them,
just
Bonnie,
right
so,
on. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I worked with them and I did asbestos abatement.
did?
Yes.
Oh.
And so I know
Yeah, I know
how
what you're talking about.
significantly important
Yeah.
it is, even if it was done according to standards at one time. If those standards have changed and we're putting a bunch of people there, we really need to know that in order to make an informed decision.
And if you remember, in 2021, when we first reviewed this concept plan, asbestos was actually, if you look back at the minutes, it was discussed.
Mr. Chair, has anybody reached out to the state of South Dakota to see whether or not they have any concerns with the encroachment of this development near their property? Or was the state of South Dakota noticed that this was going forward?
Yep, they actually called and, because this GIS actually doesn't have their address, so I sent it to, like, whatever address they have on their main website, and
So
then the
they
gal.
were contacted.
Yep.
About this project and that the asbestos was buried there.
They, it wasn't specific, it was an adjacent landowner letter that all of the property owners within the 250 feet of the area were sent, mailed a letter per our ordinance requirement.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that is very, very interesting topic that you brought up, because, yeah, I mean, it is someone else's property, you know, it's the state's property. Is there supposed to be any setbacks to it? Maybe there are, maybe they're not, maybe they, you know, that's something I don't know the answer to that.
Don't you think that they might have already accommodated for that in the land that they actually purchased?
And that's what I was going to say, is I would say they probably did get their required setbacks in permanent easement or in property ownership. I know that's how, you know, I work for the state in, with the DOT, and when it comes to right-of-way, you know, if we need a certain amount of right-of-way or setback from ours, we purchase that to make sure we were able to accommodate all of our needs. You know, but I can't speak for the DANR, but my guess is it's buried in the middle and it's got the setbacks that it's supposed to have before the property. But that's just a guess.
Yeah, and I'll look into that. I'll try to get some information. Because, no, it's definitely, it's a serious concern, and we want to make sure that nobody is at risk when they're coming out and developing this area, so.
Thank you, Brandy, for appreciating that. I thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing it up. It didn't even cross my mind.
I will open the public hearing and probably should state your name for the record, and thank you for answering those questions.
Yeah, Colin DeYoung with Austin Engineering.
And with the public hearing open, is there anything else you'd like to add in favor or against this?
Not unless you guys have more questions.
Seeing none, is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak in favor or against this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second. First, we will do for the concept plan revision, so I'm asking for a motion and a second to update the concept plan.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to update the plan. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next, I'll ask for a motion and a second for the rezoning to rezone it from A1 to PUD. Can I get a motion and a second?
Can you just point that area out? That is the R3 land over there, right? Am I looking at the right? Just-
It's the stuff on the south side.
Yep, right in this area. Here, I'll grab another map. There's lots of documents.
Well, the two maps you have side by side, so,
Yeah, well, but that's the concept plan.
oh,
I was gonna show you the exhibit, the petition exhibit.
yeah, okay. So, just so we know where we're at.
Yeah. I'll get there.
There's a lot of maps there, yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of documents on this one. Okay, so here is the vicinity map. And then I have the two areas that are being rezoned for the PUD highlighted. And this actually already extends up here. This is just inaccurate.
And so with this, there's the question of it adjacent to the state-owned property. If this rezone were to not go through, the applicant still has a buildable right on their property. If it does go through, they have, could you explain how their position changes?
Yeah, so basically, you're still they're gonna have to come back for the R2 zoning designation when they are ready to put in that extension of Prairie Hills Avenue or Park. So at that time, then we can kind of look into this information as far as the asbestos abatement. And then right now, that would create the buffer from the PUD. If this wouldn't go through, it's zoned A1, so there's not a whole lot that they can do with it. And obviously, we wouldn't allow them to develop unless it was meeting the concept plan.
Okay, thank you.
But at least that does give some assurance, that we're keeping some distance still from that area that we have concern about. And it'll also be a later phase. So if there are concerns that the DANR has when we get a hold of them, we will look into that as far as when they come for building permit issuance too. So it's more so as far as what they're proposing for the plan, if the board is comfortable, we'll make sure all of, environmental wise, when they would get a building permit are checked off.
And is it one of those where if you reach out to them and if they respond to you, within the next couple of weeks, you would have time to take it to the city council, because we will, if we approve this today, it'll go to city council for a first reading and then for a second and action. So I
Yep.
mean, if something were to come from it before then, you'd still be able to take it to the city council before they offer or make their recommend or approval or denial.
Yep, and so the concept plan is only approved by the plan commission, but then yes, the rezone would still go forward to council. So that'll be a good, that'll be the goal that I'll get, hopefully, I'll just get to it tomorrow.
State's great to work with, so
Yes.
have to throw that plug in there. I work for them. Hearing that, could I get a motion and a second for the rezone?
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. I do think, since this one's a little bit contentious, I would ask for a roll call vote on this, but before I do, I guess, is there any other further discussions before I do a vote?
One more clarification, just because so the little sliver that goes along the north there, is this all considered one PUD or are these two?
They will be one, basically, we'll have phase one that was approved in 2021, and then now phase 2 and 3 added to that.
Oh, okay, so it's just a phase, but this is a phase, 2 and 3. So they're two different phases, two different PUDs, basically.
Well, because a
Well, they're in a
PUD.
Okay, I gotcha.
So
yeah.
it'll kind of just add to it.
Right,
Because
right, gotcha.
a PUD is an actual rezone.
Because it's all in there. Gotcha.
Yeah,
I'm
yep.
gonna paste it all together here pretty soon.
No,
What
no,
day is it?
It's all good. That's, Heath and I had to go through that too.
Is there any other comments? All right, I will ask for a roll call vote.
All right. Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Case.
Yep.
Aletsky,
Yes.
Ford,
No.
Brink.
Yes. The vote of 4-1, the motion passes. It moves on to city council. Item 7 on the agenda is open public comment.
Nobody, I
Didn't
don't know, did
see
you
any.
have anything? Yeah. Okay. Okay, sounds good.
And then item 8 is new business.
Yeah, so this is, like I said, during Board of Adjustment, I'll keep this brief, but just wanted to give you guys a heads up that, so recodification, we're actually going to take Title 21 separate from that because the amendments are more intricate and detailed, where I want to be able to take them in smaller chapters and bring them forward as individual ordinance amendments so that we can dissect better, and that we're not just throwing Title 21 out here and asking for that approval or recommendation, you know? So basically, like some of the ones that I would foresee, and I kind of want your input if you are in agreement, because obviously the Plan Commission, we have our goals and priorities working together on that. So I want to make sure that I'm not off the mark. We've already made the amendments because that was an objective from the city attorney, city manager, from our strategic planning. So the amendments are done. So now it's just a matter of which ones to focus on. And some large ones that I think would be very helpful for what staff sees and what is not it's complicated for interpretation and administering. So would be like the chart, the district chart, looking at some different things there for setbacks, how we break down the R3 district, because that's not very user-friendly, really. And like all of those little things, and then just that chart, all of the footnotes, like we've done some cleanup and trying to make it more user-friendly, and then also meeting community goals that we have too. So that would be a huge one, and then sign code, have some changes there. And then, I mean, just all around, there's just different things, different chapters throughout, but I want to just break them down so that we're not throwing it all out there and be, probably here till 9 or something, that's a lot to take in. So that is the goal. Any thoughts?
Is the plan to provide the proposed changes in a piecemeal basis to us with more than 3 days response time to have our abilities to wrap our head around them so that we can have proper discourse?
So we are hoping to, well, our goal is to always get the agenda out on Friday. But what we could almost do is bring it up as new business of what is going to be coming. So like, if we plan on bringing an ordinance amendment to the August 18th meeting, then maybe at the August 8th meeting, I'll present it as new business. And then you guys would have that additional time to be looking through it if there's concerns, if there are concerns. And then we'll obviously bring it at that August 18th meeting for action.
For public hearing.
Yep, and public hearing, yep. And then it would go on again to city council for the 2 readings. So,
I guess for where I'm at with it is that sometimes things that appear to be easy or made easy, or even things from a staff perspective, because I've been in those shoes over the years, sometimes they're not always agreed upon by the public or the people here. And so rather than having adverse discourse at the public hearing standpoint, I think properly vetting the information to the planning commission so that you guys, we don't want to be blindsiding you at the public hearing, and then we have to take another dramatic pause to extend things another 2 weeks because we're going to make amendments at that meeting. I think it's better to vet those things out from a policy standpoint prior to making the changes at a public hearing standpoint. So it's like if you're coming and presenting that information to the planning commission and we have it, and then we have the chance to say, well, this is all good, except these 3 things aren't good. And we either to say, maybe we make the proposed changes now so that when you get ready to go to public hearing, that the document is there prior to, so that
Yeah.
because if we make amendments at that point in time, then it just further pushes the cart down the road.
yeah, and that's kind of the process that I just explained, that I'm trying to achieve. And then the other thing is that if we do have to table something, it's not the end of the world. We can work at it. But obviously, if there is, I just want to hear the input. That's why as I explained, that we would do it at the prior meeting where then it can be introduced. And then you guys have time. You can call, you can email any questions or concerns that you have.
And
But I'll
that'll
try to-
be available to the public too.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep, because it'll be on the agenda. So I think it'll be good. There's a lot of things that just could use some cleanup.
Yep.
It's good to do some house cleaning.
Yeah, it'll be a process for sure. It'll be good. Is there any old business?
None that I have.
Any reason to go into executive session?
No. You know what? Let me just announce too. I know I emailed all of you, but Jason Hansen has stepped down or resigned from his position on the board, which is unfortunate. We appreciated him very much and just all of the experience and expertise that he brought. And so definitely want to publicly thank him for his public service and for many years of service. So, and as well as all of you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And with that, I will adjourn us.